Hello bookworms, I'm Becca and today I'm coming at you with my October wrap-up. In the month of October I read a grand total of 4 books and I at least enjoyed all of them, so let's get into those reads. The first book I read this month I actually don't have anymore because I got it from the library, and it was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book that I've ever read, and from the sounds of it, this one was much different than any of her other books, so I'm really interested to check out some more of Colleen Hoover's books. If you don't know, It Ends With Us is about a woman named Lily who wasn't exactly looking for love after the death of her father, but when Ryle enters her life, everything changes, but not necessarily for the better. It's a really interesting book. It was kind of heartbreaking to read. I've never really read a book where the point of the relationship was to be unhealthy. It just so happens that in lots of YA books, the relationships are just extremely unhealthy, even though they're not trying to be. So this was a very different perspective in a relationship than I'm used to reading, and I am so happy that I chose to read this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because the story was so important and it deeply affected me. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend it, although there are trigger warnings for domestic violence and abusive relationships. The next book I read this month was The Third Twin by CJ Omalolu. I got this at Target for like $7. It was totally worth it. And this is about twins, Lexi and Ava, and when they were younger, they made up a third sister named Alicia that they blamed all of their shenanigans on whenever they got in trouble. And as they got older, they kind of used Alicia to be able to date the same guy and stuff like that. But when a boy that they were both dating as Alicia turns up dead, and the DNA ends up being Alicia's, so it turns into this mystery of who this Alicia person is. Does she really exist, or is there's something a bit more sinister going on? The ending was a little bit predictable and I didn't entirely enjoy how it wrapped up. I'm still glad that I read it. It was a cute little spooky read for October. And yeah, if it sounds interesting to you, go ahead and pick it up. If not, I don't really think you're missing out on much, but I found it a little bit interesting. And I gave this one 3.5 stars, I think. The next book I read this month was Survive the Night by Danielle Vega, one of my favorite authors of all time. She's also the author of the Merciless series that I just cannot stop raving about. And this book is completely different than that series. This is about a girl named Casey, and she kind of runs with the wrong crowd. Her friends are into drugs and drinking and that kind of lifestyle, and Casey actually, when the book opens, is just getting out of rehab for drug abuse, even though she swears that she was not a drug addict. Her new friends come and pick her up and take her out to party. They end up finding about this rave that is happening in the abandoned subway system, and so they go to check that out for a little bit. They get separated from the rest of the rave, and when they go back, everyone is gone and they are all alone, trapped in the underground subway system. It gets crazy. I don't want to give too much away. If you're familiar with The Merciless, you know that Danielle Vega's books are freaking crazy, and this one is definitely no different. However, I did end up giving this one 3.5 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Merciless. Danielle Vega has this strange way of writing where the story is extremely interesting. The premise is very addicting up until about 2/3 of the way through the book, and then the twist in her books ends up being so bizarre that it almost takes you out of the story. This did happen in The Merciless, but because of the twist, I was able to explain it away. However, in Survive the Night, I had a more difficult time being engaged in the story with the twist that occurs in this book. I feel like it could have taken so many different directions, and I'm still a little bit confused as to why Danielle Vega chose to take it in the way that this book went in. Very bizarre, but very, very addictive writing. Her books are always perfect for October spooky times. And the last book I read this month was With Malice by Eileen Cook. This is about a girl named Jill who wakes up in a hospital with her leg in a cast. She has aphasia, which means she can't speak properly. She has head injuries, and she does not remember the past 6 weeks of her life. She got into a car accident on a class trip in Italy, and she survived, but her best friend died. However, the media doesn't think that it was an accident. So for the whole book, Jill is trying to piece together what happened, and in the end, let me just say, it gets so crazy. There are so many different little mysteries within this book that it just does keep you guessing, and once you think you have one thing figured out, another thing pops up. I started this book earlier in the month, but kind of set it down to focus on other things, and when I picked it back up again, I ended up reading the whole rest of the book in one sitting. I was up until 4 a.m. reading this book because I was so obsessed and needed to know what happened next. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because it was a bit slow at times and the twist wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, and I feel like it could have been structured a little bit better. You really don't find out what happens until like the last chapter, but even then you're left with a lot of questions. So yeah, I had some problems with this book, but not that many problems. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to, but I still will definitely recommend it to people who love mysteries and thrillers. This is a great YA thriller. And those are all of the books that I read during the month of October. Please let me know if you've read any of the books I mentioned down below in the comments so we can talk about them more together. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below to see more bookish videos. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you next time.